Auto racing has been around since the invention of the automobile, and the 60s captures one of the most exciting times for the sport. Ford, Porsche, and Ferrari are some of the most notable names. And now, a movie about Enzo Ferrari, the founder of the company.
And who else should talk about this with us than film critic Benjamin Edelman? He is joining us in studio this afternoon.
Hello.
Hello, Ben.
I was going to say that movie is looking fast.
It's very good. I liked it quite a bit. The movie's Ferrari. It is about Enzo Ferrari, who is the head of the Ferrari company. This was at a time when race cars, the winners of these races was what sold these cars. If your company's car was winning races, your car was selling. You were the top dogs. So we joined this movie where Enzo Ferrari and his wife are kind of at the lowest point in their lives. Their son is dead, their marriage is straining, the finances of their company are falling apart. If they do not win the next race, they may have to sell their company. So there's a lot on the line for them. But this is not really a movie about racing. This is an excellent character study on Enzo Ferrari himself, a man who constantly sabotages his own life. There's one line in the trailer and in the movie which I love quite a bit. He's talking to his racing team and says, two objects cannot be on the same point at the same time. Now, of course, he's talking about race cars, but I think that actually relates to himself as well. He's living this double life with this other family, and he's kind of splitting his time between the two, but two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. He is tearing himself apart.
Wow.
So talk about the actors in this film.
Oh my gosh, they're so good. You got Adam Driver as Enzo Ferrari and Penelope Cruz. Penelope Cruz kind of plays this woman who's full of sadness and anger, yet she has so much control in her life and the choices she makes. And that control is something her husband Enzo Ferrari constantly craves but cannot get. Even though he's not behind the race car himself, he is constantly driving towards certain death in his personal life and in his work. And you know, this is a dangerous, dangerous sport. I mean, people die in these races. Our director, Manuel, was telling me that an average of 4 people a year were killed in these races.
Whoa.
Wow.
This movie is about loss, it's about blame, these characters constantly throwing blame around and not really processing grief themselves. And by not processing that grief, Ferrari kind of just spins out of control.
Ben, you obviously enjoyed this film. What kinds of awards do you think this will win?
You know, it hasn't been in the award circuit as much as I kind of think it should be now that I've seen it. I do think Penelope Cruz could get a supporting actress nomination for the Oscars. I also want to point out the sound design, which is fantastic. Michael Mann uses sound so well here. The silence contrasted by the roaring engines. I mean, it's used so effectively. And there's a fantastic scene at the start of the film where the entire Ferrari team is in church, but across the street, another car is racing to beat their record. So as the gunshot goes off, they all take out their stopwatches and click it. So on the low end of the track, you hear the pastor, the priest telling his sermon. In the middle end of the track, you hear the car racing. And in the high end, you hear tick, 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 because that's what they're focusing on, is that race on the edge of their seat. Again, two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. They are not even focused on church when they're in church. They are in 2 spaces at once.
There was a reoccurring theme, it sounds like, throughout the movie. So now if someone isn't really into cars, if it doesn't tickle their fancy, would they still be into this movie?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a very strong film, and you don't have to know everything about cars to love this movie. And the racing is fantastic, and these crashes are pretty intense. There are some harrowing moments in this movie that my theater had to be quiet the moment it happened, because there are some intense crashes. It is very well done, and I said you don't need to know a whole lot about Enzo Ferrari or even Ford or any of those corporations to get a lot out of this man versus self battle.
For yourself, how much did you know before going into this film?
I knew very little, and I actually didn't even know what to expect from this movie. I'm not the biggest Michael Mann fan. He directed this film, but I was told by our editor, Anthony, this was a passion project for Mann. He spent more than 25 years developing this movie. The screenwriter actually passed away in 2007, sadly, before it was made, but he finally got it on the ground, and that's very exciting. I also want to point out something that Anthony told me. This is a movie, Ferrari, about racing, and the actors' names are Adam Driver and Penelope Cruz.
Coincidence? I think not. That's amazing. So where does this stand in the lineup this year? You've only seen how many movies?
Well, I'm not going to say anything yet because next week I will be sharing my top 15 films of the year.
Looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Ben. We always enjoy your segments.